we really don't see much in the way of selling whatsoever. I think that there is the people who are holding gold right now and silver right now, by and large, are strong hands, as strong as they can possibly be. They have weathered the storm of volatility. They have weathered the storm of counterintuitive rhetoric. What the market has done, to your question, to your point, what you're hedging at, they've done a good job of keeping the mainstream disinterested. But by this point, if you've been holding gold and silver for the last several years...
Andy Schectman from Miles Franklin discusses the ongoing scarcity of physical silver and gold, despite recent COMEX fluctuations. He touches on market premiums, rising interest rates, and dwindling silver reserves. Plus, Andy addresses the looming government shutdown and its potential impact on the U.S. credit rating. Stay tuned for valuable insights.
That poker is the systematic distribution of wealth from the impatient. And I think you have to have strong fingertips in this case, Chris. And look, he made another point that a lot of people are talking about, and it starts with gold, but we'll transition to silver, and that is that the difference in price in China, in Shanghai, where gold is trading at about a 5% premium in Shanghai to the London and New York price. The same thing is going to happen with silver. And as he pointed out, look, as long as people are stupid enough to part with silver at these prices, the big money, the cartel, will maintain them in an effort to accumulate it. And once that price is rendered as ridiculous to the people who are foolish enough to sell it, as it is to us, as it is to the people accumulating it, things will change. But no, I think that really this is as good of an opportunity to accumulate metal as we've seen since 2019, and it's not changing. There's one other thing to throw into this mix, and I want people to think of the Tier 1 revision of gold, where the Bank of International Settlements reclassified gold as the world's only other Tier 1 reserve asset. And you see the central banks using the Western suppression accumulate more gold over the last 18 months than they have ever in the history of central banking. What is interesting about that, and I think you can transition to silver, because remember, gold and silver have a 90% correlation nearly throughout all of history in terms of their movement. It may not be perfectly symmetrical. Typically, gold goes first, and then silver in a percentage basis goes further. But understand this, for the very first time in 45 years, the treasury market are no longer the safest alternative. In fact, for the first time in 45 years, U.S. treasuries are now have a higher downside volatility than gold for the first time in 45 years. And it's just by a little bit. But understand that since the end of World War II, U.S. dollars and U.S. treasuries were Tier 1. In 2019, the BIS reclassified gold in that manner, as if it is non-encumbered, if it is physically held. And it's interesting to see things start to roll as you see shifting dynamics, I think, of capital moving away from the equity market and the fixed income holdings. And I think you're seeing people look to precious metals and commodities and hard assets as a go-to. And this is going to have some serious effects as things continue to play out if we continue to see a bond market with such great volatility. And, before we started, you talked about the Fed meeting. Well, exactly. Look at the 10-year treasury up to nearly 4.5%. So it's getting crazy, Chris. And at the same time, I just read a report. I know you asked a question. I'm kind of dancing around all of it. I apologize, but I just read a report. There you go. 4.5% on the 10-year treasury. It's crazy. And I just read a report just last night, that silver is disappearing, and it's estimated by 2028, the Earth will have primarily run out of at least economically mineable silver reserves. That's coming from a branch of the U.S. government, the Geological Survey Committee, or whatever their name is. But you got the branch of the U.S. government saying that by 2028 to 2030, we are very close to exhausting the economically viable mineable resources. And that's because it's found very near the surface in a form called epithermal. like your skin is epidermis. The big deposits were found long time ago. They're saying Mexico will lead the charge in that. Mexico and Peru, traditionally the biggest silver miners in the world, they're running out of silver. The world is running out of silver at the same time it is being massively accumulated by the big money. And the trolls out there saying, oh, bullshit, I can find it. It's cheap. It's everywhere. It's really a weird situation. And it's almost schizophrenic. No one sells anything. And, most of my career, that was the case. The only time that I saw substantive selling was 2017. And that was when Bitcoin took off and gold languished. And people hadn't quite grasped what was going on. We hadn't seen gold be revalued tier one. We hadn't seen the central banks repatriate their gold. We hadn't seen the rise of the BRICS and the Belt Road Initiative and the things that were making people reevaluate their stance on gold. And no, we really don't see much in the way of selling whatsoever. I think that there is the people who are holding gold right now and silver right now, by and large, are strong hands, as strong as they can possibly be. They have weathered the storm of volatility. They have weathered the storm of counterintuitive rhetoric. And they've listened to people like yourself who have explained eloquently the fundamentals, the rationale, and what the market has done to your question, to your point, what you're hedging at is that the mainstream has no idea. And they've done a good job of keeping the mainstream disinterested. But by this point, if you've been holding gold and silver for the last several years, or as long as I have, or as long as you have, you understand what's happening. And if you are paying attention to what's happening on a geopolitical scale, it becomes easier to trust your gut and to have strong fingertips. And so, no, we see very little in the way of selling. If anything, we see people trading gold to silver, if you want to call that selling gold. But we don't see anything in the way of people selling gold and silver, very, very little anyway, and repositioning into other asset classes, perhaps to use it for things they've planned. Other than that, no, it is a very, very, very small part of the industry right now, and rightfully so. I mean, this is the time it should be accumulated, at a time when risks around globally, geopolitically, economically, have never been more important. And quite to the contrary, I sometimes wonder what the hell the mainstream is thinking. And then I say, well, they have done a pretty damn good job of suppressing the reasons to own it, to making it very difficult to see from the mainstream. And if you don't spend time looking at alternative media sources like yourself, most people would walk right by it and wouldn't see it. And that's by design. And by the time people wake up to the reason to own gold and silver, not only will the majority of it all have been gobbled up from the top on down, but just like we saw in Tanzania this last week, they have started to buy their local gold to bolster its foreign reserves. So you're going to see nationalization on a lot of levels. And when you talk about sovereign mints like Canada, Australia, UK, Austria, and South Africa, these mints are going to start taking care of their own at some point. Everyone always talks about nationalization of the mines. I think you'll see nationalization of the mints at some point, especially in a dollar crisis. And at some point you have to reel things in and take care of your own. And I think there are a lot of people out there that would like the United States to do that on a broader scale. I'm not talking about their mining and their minting as much as I'm talking about our aspirations of being the global police officer. And it would be better, in my opinion, to bring everyone home, close all of our gazillion military bases, stop meddling in people's affairs, and protect our borders.
Thank you for joining us in this insightful update with Andy Schectman. Stay tuned for more valuable insights into the world of precious metals and market dynamics. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to stay informed on the latest developments. Until next time, take care and stay tuned.